Bring you in, sir.
Right.
Live from Venture Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
All right, good morning and welcome to the week with JP, Kathy, and the crew. We are so excited that you are spending today with us, whatever time of day you tune in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I think that's from The Truman Show. Jim Carrey and The Truman Show. I think that's where that's from. Anyways, we are starting our show off with the one and only Dr. Norm Clothier. He is our medical correspondent, has been with us for years on the radio, podcast. Have you been on TV, Dr. Clothier?
Well, yeah, but not on your broadcast on TV.
There you go.
So I decide.
I love it.
No,
I love
it. I mean, it's been years. It's been several years.
So, but you don't just play a doctor on TV. You're a doctor in real life. So let's go ahead and talk about kids and COVID shots. And you're hearing so many parents out there. And you know, if you hop on social media for 5 minutes, parents are desperate for good information on what to do about their kids, especially those under the age of 12. So please help us out with what's the best kind of advice. And I think I've got JP too.
Oh, sorry about that. I had a guy over here to my left who looks like he hasn't eaten in a year, and so I gave him a burrito.
Oh, very nice of you. Well, we've got Dr. Clothier on, and JP, he's talking about kids, which is our favorite subject, and how to keep them healthy with COVID. So, Dr. Clothier, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, first of all, I think the vaccine is a huge key to limiting the effects of the virus on society. I think if we can get down to more of an endemic level than a pandemic level, it would be remarkably good for everything, for school, for business, for meetings, for families, for gatherings, for reducing the death rate, for reducing the long-term complications of COVID. All those things would go down if we have fewer severe infections and fewer infections in general. So I think the vaccine is the real key of that. We've tried social distancing, we've tried masking, we've tried washing hands, and we've tried wishful thinking. And those things just don't work all that well alone. Now, working with the vaccine and doing social distancing and washing of hands and all the reasonable things certainly has reduced the rate of infection, the rate of death. And it's interesting, in the U.S., there are now 700,000 deaths from COVID. It's actually about 735,000 now, and only 1%, 7,000, have been in people who are vaccinated. And, if you keep in mind, a lot of those deaths happened before the vaccine even existed, that puts the rate very low. So I think it's very favorable to get a vaccine, of course. And, I'll just remind people, kids are vaccinated to go to school. People are vaccinated to travel, to go to other countries and such. There is a law in Texas and virtually every state that you have to have a Menactra vaccine to even register for a college class, even if it's an online class, because those things have been shown to be so significant in reducing disease. So I think the next logical step is to approve the vaccine in younger people and to start vaccinating the younger people who may not have as high a death rate. That's true. I keep hearing from people, kids don't, there aren't a lot of kids who have died from the COVID virus. And I often think two things about that. One is sit back and think what you just said, is there aren't a lot of kids who are dead from the vaccine. From the virus. That was a faux pas there. A lot of kids dead from the virus. If any kids are dead from the virus, I would suggest we find something to do about that to reduce the rate of death. And then the second thing is, of course, that whether they are severely infected or not, if they're infected, maybe in the hospital, maybe out of schools, or carrying it home to their families who may be far more susceptible, or giving it to their teachers and staff who may be far more susceptible, that's still a serious issue.
Well,
So the vaccine for
anything that has to do, Dr. Clothier, with kids is, I mean, that should grab. If we don't care about our adults, we've got to care about the kids.
yeah, and I think it's odd to me how many people seem to be rather nonchalant about saying, oh, there have only been 7,800 hospitalizations with COVID and only 260 deaths this calendar year, 2021. That's still a lot. That, I might remind you, in the realm of tragedy and in the realm of violence, that is more than have died in school bus wrecks. That's more than have died in school shootings. That's just a really high number, honestly. And I think if we're going to put it in perspective, we have to realize the virus is mean. And, I still keep hearing people say things like, oh, only 1% or less than 1% of people die. I'm not worried about this virus at all. Well, now that we're looking at worldwide numbers that add up to somewhere around 6.9 million worldwide deaths, and that's a low estimate because India has reported about 400,000 deaths, and the thought is there actually are about 5 million in India alone. But if you took that low number, somewhere around, let's say 6 million, not even 6 point anything, then that would be kind of like saying, well, there's a bomb that'll go off around somewhere in the world, and if it's in Dallas, it'll only kill about 6 million people, so we really shouldn't worry about that because that's, less than 1% of the world population, or 0.1%. When you start talking percentages and numbers like that, it's a huge number because there are so many infections. And I think people have to get perspective of, don't look at, the low percentage, look at the reality of numbers. And that gets into the whole issue of, statistics can mean what you want them to. You could claim a very low rate of death, say from age 20 to 40. But if you have the perspective of worldwide deaths of people who should have lived 50 or 60 more years without the virus, I think it's a very significant number. But going back to the vaccine, it is probably going to be approved in November for ages 5 to 11. This will be the Pfizer vaccine will be first. And it'll be a third of the dose for bigger people, age 12 and up, which I think is probably quite reasonable. And if you can get some degree of immune response ready to go, which is what vaccines are for, so that if your body is faced with the virus, you will fight it off more successfully by a huge increment, a huge gain there. And I think that will be very safe. I think it'll be very favorable for society to reduce infections. And I want to keep emphasizing that the idea of a vaccine is that your body is ready if you are confronted with the virus. If you inhale some viral particles, your body is then ready to fight it immediately rather than having to wait a few days to try to mount an immune response while you get. So it is not a force field. It doesn't keep you from ever getting the virus. It doesn't keep you from ever carrying the virus if you have a few hours of the virus on your nose or mouth and you're coughing on people, for instance. But it greatly reduces the likelihood of severe infection, and it does reduce some of the contagion because the body can mount an immune response quickly. So those things are, I guess I said the right thing, got a good bark out of that. But anyway, it's just very favorable, I think, to be able to have this. And I've had a lot of parents asking me for the vaccine for their kids because they are concerned appropriately about the virus.
Right. Well, JP, any thoughts from you?
Hot coffee in my lap. That's the growl he got.
So it was not a reaction.
You barked when you spilled coffee? I'm impressed.
Yeah.
But I do hate to hear. Let's talk about coffee for a minute because we're bored with COVID, right? And so coffee, there's yet another study that showed that coffee has health benefits. And, there's a reduction in the progression and the likelihood of Parkinson's in coffee drinkers, a lower rate of type 2 diabetes in people who drink coffee. There's less gallbladder disease in people who, drink coffee, and there is an increased mental state such that students who drink coffee actually have been shown to perform better on tests. That was tested in a college group. I'm not saying
wow.
put your kindergartner on it yet,
Right.
but in college students, it does show a benefit. So, I, of course, obviously, I drink coffee. And so I watch these things because I don't want to be harmed by it. And as with many things that are out there, whether it's, coffee or broccoli or red meat or wheat or whatever, you need to watch to see what evidence is in terms of, benefit and risk, the so-called risk-benefit ratio. And coffee keeps winning. Coffee is a favorable substance in medical research. And, it also helps stop headaches, like migraine headaches.
Yes.
That's why it's packaged into products for that. And, and so to put it in perspective, what I find is almost every year around New Year's, there are all these stories about things you got to give up for your New Year's resolutions. And half or more of the time, it seems like coffee and caffeine are way up there on the list. They're sort of like, you got to, exercise, lose weight, quit coffee, quit caffeine, whatever. And there really is not evidence for that. Most all of these studies have shown that if you drink up to 5 cups a day, there's a very safe margin there. Most people I know do not drink 5 cups a day because that's quite a lot.
Yeah,
But
unless you're a professional. Unless you're a professional coffee drinker, 1 cup, I'm one and done. But I'm interested in the thing about type 2 diabetes. That I've never heard that. And I've heard the migraine thing, and I've heard a few of those things, but I had not heard about type 2 diabetes. Is that does the coffee somehow help with sugar regulation?
There seems to be a metabolic effect to those who drink coffee having a benefit, and there is debate as to the why. There are a lot of enzyme pathways in the body, and it may help regulate insulin release so that you don't get surges and then cravings for, foods. That's, the debate about diet drinks and substitute sweet product. I can't think of the word all of a sudden. Sugar substitute.
Right.
I couldn't think of that word, sugar. It's pretty difficult. But anyway, when you start looking at sugar substitutes and calorie-free products that are used for sugar-free foods so that they taste sweet, the issue there is that it's a large molecule. So when it hits the mouth, you taste it, and it tastes sweet the way it's designed. And then as you absorb it or swallow it, it doesn't absorb into the body. It just passes through the GI tract. In fact, there are a lot of people who have so-called sugar alcohols, xanthines and such that are not very tolerable to them. If they have sugar-free food, they have gassiness and stomach rumbling. And the reason is it's not absorbed into the body. So it goes up here at the mouth, it tastes sweet, and then you pass it through the system without absorbing it, and therefore it is calorie-free. So the debate on that is that if you stimulate insulin release by having the sweet taste at your mouth so that your body would be ready for sugar in terms of absorption and processing, then it doesn't hit that you actually end up feeling hungrier because your body has high insulin levels and wants something to digest. And so that's why, a lot of people have gotten away from like diet sodas and various sugar-free foods, thinking that if you eat them, you won't gain calories, you'll be fine. It may actually be stimulating more hunger and cause you to want to eat more and defeat its own purpose. So the theory on caffeine then and coffee is that it doesn't seem to overstimulate insulin so that perhaps you have more of a feeling of just, not being overly hungry or being more satisfied with the caffeine in your system. Now, we have to put that in the perspective of don't get a theoretical coffee drink that is actually 1,400 calories of sugar with a touch of coffee in there. And, you don't need your meal's worth of calories to be in one drink. And or a day's worth even.
Are you talking about the pumpkin spice latte, Mr. Dr. Clothier?
The one you just spilled? Yeah. Yeah, I tell you, it's interesting. If you start to look at calorie content of food and drink, and you start to compare what you would want to eat versus what you are consuming because it's seasonal or popular or, on sale or whatever, it's shocking how many calories are in some of the various lattes and frappuccinos and such. Really watch that sugar side of things and that calorie side. So if you drink black coffee, there are no calories and there are benefits. And just to throw the next cog into the system, complication into the system, it's that decaffeinated coffee actually does not show those same health benefits.
Huh.
And I know that seems odd to people, but the challenge is that decaffeinated coffee is almost sort of like a sugar-free drink. It has been processed to filter away the caffeine, and in that processing, it actually breaks down some of the favorable antioxidant natural substances in the coffee bean, and so it actually is not as favorable as just coffee. So if you are sensitive to caffeine, obviously you wouldn't want to overdo coffee, and you wouldn't want to drink it too late in the day and all those things. But if you drink morning coffee, if you have a cup of morning coffee, you should not feel guilty.
Fantastic. Dr. Clothier, I've got a question since we're off topic. What about this new thing where people are going out and getting intravenous vitamins now? Does that have any health benefits?
Probably not. That is interesting. And I think there are always trends that come around, and people love the idea of talking about a vitamin or a mineral or a supplement. And certainly there are some that are feasible. I wouldn't say they're miraculous, but the best way to get vitamins, minerals, and nutrition is healthy eating. Natural food products that have things in them that are naturally occurring vitamins and minerals and nutrition. And the idea, for instance, there has been a lot of movement, I would say, toward taking like vitamin D, zinc, and vitamin C as, theoretical warding off of COVID, the virus, and, in terms of the infection. Unfortunately, the hospitals are full of people who have been taking those vitamins, and, as well as society with the infection rate that's about the same as the infection rate in people who don't take the vitamins. So it has not shown to be a particular benefit. If you are a healthy person, you wash your hands, you're careful, you keep social distancing, and you take vitamins, I think that's fine. But I don't think you should expect taking vitamins and minerals to be a protective shield so that you can just wantonly go out into an infected room and expect to not have a COVID infection occur. So similarly with some of the various IV vitamins, infusions, chelation therapy, on paper they sound good. They look good. You can talk about how much you're going to bind to this receptor and flood this other one. They'll keep you from getting ill from something, prevent a cancer, prevent bone loss, all kinds of things. And then if you look at the outcomes, they're really not any different than people who never had the infusion. So occasionally people need an injection of a vitamin that's low in their body, like B12, for instance, in people with pernicious anemia. But that's because they have developed a disease state where they no longer absorb B12 through the GI tract. And so those select small number of people need to have an injection to overcome that because they can't absorb it through the GI tract. The vast majority of humans don't have that condition. It may be, you probably don't want to have that condition. I think it's interesting how many people love various vitamins and sort of almost want to be deficient so that they can justify taking it. And I find that a little unusual, but that's, kind of human nature. You want an answer to something if you're chronically tired or whatever the issue is. But the best nutrition really is to eat nutritiously in a balanced diet. Now, having said that, I think that most people do not do that. And especially most children really don't have much of a balanced diet. Their balance is usually between chicken fingers and French fries and pizza and maybe a Pop-Tart here and there. So, the kids eat more kind of out of habit. It's also out of ease. That's you're not necessarily going to get up and make your child a really fancy breakfast with different nutritional groups in it and such. And they may very well, and I think most children do benefit from a multivitamin, but they don't need to get into IV treatment and mega doses. And, it's always important to watch what the actual dose of something is, like a supplement or a vitamin, just like you should watch what the actual serving size is on a food portion. It sometimes is very shocking to people that, the portion is actually quite small. More is not better. Some is usually fine.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Clothier. I know it's become a hot thing out there.
Yeah, and it comes and goes every few years. If you remember a few years ago, there was a huge trend toward like IV hydrogen peroxide and other like chelation agents, and there were infomercials.
Yes.
And in fact, that may be where I need to stop that comment is if you see an infomercial, one that says, all doctors wish they had this information and they don't, and we figured it out and we'll sell it to you, then there's usually a little bit of a problem with that product. Medical research is readily shared. People want to see what is beneficial to people across the board. It's typically not a closed network of salespeople that, can find a solution and promote it on late night TV and have the answer for all disease. That's usually not going to prove to be valid with time.
Well, thank you for dispelling the myth. And looking at the time, it looks like it is 7:56, 7:57.
Yeah, I think I should get to work.
You've got patience.
We don't want to keep you from people that need to be healthy, that's for sure.
Very good. Well, have a great week, a very safe week. Going into Halloween, I want to just encourage people one more time, just be smart and safe. Don't overdo food. Don't overdo candy specifically. There's no need to get just sick on Halloween candy. And also just be smart and safe about, the whole realm of Halloween. Be watching out for your family and be careful.
Great advice. Great advice. Have a blessed week.
Very good. Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, good intel. And so, JP, so you've given a homeless person a burrito, and God bless you. I know you're always giving food out. I've seen you. I've been in the car with you when you've given a bag of fresh fruit to somebody in need. So God bless you, my friend. Did you really spill hot coffee in your lap?
I did.
That's not good.
From how horrible our roads are, I have absolutely torn up my struts and my shocks. And so this week, the car gets to go in and get a little bit of a shock makeover. It's from watching Coco Melon. Coco Melon, I'm like, oh, Lord Jesus.
Like, now that's laugh's going to be in my head. And you do. And each week you sound a little more like Coco Melon, by the way.
Yes. I know, it's terrible. I can't believe it. Nonetheless, how exciting is sports right now? Oh,
wow-wee. It's been a great it's been a great and again, I'm not watching all sports. I've got my personal protests going on, but lots to report. So what struck you as just off the charts this weekend?
Well, my sadness. I've got a great deal of sadness. My Los Angeles Dodgers have been departed from the World Series this year. There will not be a repeat. The Atlanta Braves, and it goes to show you that record doesn't necessarily matter. The Dodgers finished the regular season at 106 wins, just behind the Giants at 107. Of course, the Giants go down in flames at the hand of the Dodgers, and the Dodgers go into Atlanta, and it looked like Atlanta was going to get a sweep. The Dodgers fought back at home, but Atlanta finally was able to put the nail in the coffin and send the Dodgers home. The Braves end the season with an 88-game winning season, and they're in the World Series facing off against Coach Quigley's Houston Astros.
And he's cheering. He's cheering right now. We can hear him cheering from New Jersey. He's visiting family in New Jersey right now, and we can hear you, Coach, all the way in Texas.
We can. Well, I'll tell you what's going to be interesting. It's going to be the scrappiness of the Braves. The Braves are kind of one of those teams that they don't go away. You're going to have to put them away very early, very quick, if you want to be able to make this series a Houston Astro World Series. If you're going to stick around at 2-1, 1-1, then the Braves are pretty scrappy. The Astros are scrappy as well. Don't get me wrong. Get them in a close game, and they'll blow you out towards the middle to the end innings in a game. But I don't know that the Astros will have the punch that's needed. I think the Braves are hungry. They haven't been in a World Series, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the word was 1999, which I got to go back and research that, but that doesn't seem right. But it could be. I mean, the days of Greg Maddux.
So 22 years? Really? Would that be 22 years ago? I mean, that is 22 years ago. You may be right, though.
I mean, it could very well be.
Where's Chris O'Sullivan when we need him? He'd be able to tell you exactly.
He would. So, but I'm telling you, I don't know. I've got a funny feeling. And Coach Quigley might be able to tell us on the feed. Of course, I can't look at the feed because I'm driving.
Please do not. I will look for you.
Yeah, let's not do that. Yeah. But, I think since the Chipper Jones days and the Andrew Jones days, and I just don't know that the Braves have been back to the World Series. Now, again, the last couple of years in the playoffs, because they've done a great job rebuilding and putting pieces in place to find success. But, I'm not sure about the latter, though. So, anyways, big World Series coming up between the Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros. Go our Texas team. Now, here's what's interesting. What's interesting is that there are a lot of Texas people, especially in North Texas, that are not fans of the Houston Astros and will not root for them.
I know. Because
of what they did 2 years ago. And, I mean, people still are holding a grudge. They're cheaters. They cheated. They don't deserve to be in this series. Well, here's my thing. Not everybody that was on that team 2 years ago is on the Houston Astros team now. And I don't want to hold accountable players that didn't do anything wrong. And so, you know what? My slate's clean, and I'm a go Astros guy.
Yeah, and we've got to dig. We've got to dig our Houston. We got to dig our Houston Astros ball caps out. I've got mine with the bling on it. You know what, Coach? For you, yes. And you know, here's the thing. This will be a great series. And Coach said that Officer Graham, you know, he's the liaison police officer at Academy High School in Plano ISD. He's a big old Braves fan. And JP, he went to Atlanta for games 1, 2, and 6. How cool is that? So again, you know, regardless if you're a Rangers fan, and it is what it is. So, you know, you've got to appreciate the teams that are in the World Series, and you've got to love the fans because, like you, and you're a diehard. I mean, you've reported, you know, you've done spring training and World Series, and you've, you know, been able to interview all kinds of folks. If you're a diehard baseball fan, you just have to appreciate whoever makes it to the World Series.
Absolutely. And again, there's nothing that shows this Houston Astro team cheated. Not everybody on this team was on the team 2 years ago. I will say this, that Dusty Baker not only was a class act as a player and a champion, but as a manager, he's done the same. And I appreciate the way he's handled the Houston Astros and the media. So, again, I've got to go with the Astros. I do think the Braves are scrappy. I think the Astros need to jump on them early and get a 5 or 6 run lead. And I think that'll shut them down. I don't think the Braves have it in them to come back from a large run deficit. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully the Astros pitching will hold true. Middle relievers are going to be the biggest denominator, I think, for both teams. And I think their closers are both strong. And it's just going to come down to those middle innings. You know, one of the things that I started seeing in baseball is that people are starting to pull their starters at the fourth inning or at the end of the fourth inning. And so that middle relief is going to become extremely important for both teams as they go down the stretch in this 7-game series. So, but again, I'm an Astros guy, so
go Stros. Is that right? Go Stros.
Yep, that's right. Go Stros.
Hashtag
You know, and
Stros.
what's interesting is, you know, you mentioned the Texas Rangers. You know, we celebrate runs with the Texas Rangers, and what I mean by that is when they win 2 or 3 in a row, that's our World Series. So we're good with it.
Well, you know, yeah, we're happy when we get, you know, some wins in the win column. And again, you know, Rangers fan, we're like Cowboys fans. We're diehard. We're in it obviously for the long haul.
That's right. So, but Globe Life Park is beautiful, and the Rangers have done a great job there for sure. And,
Yes.
and an interesting cuisine next baseball season, Kathy. I want to tackle the different areas of cuisine that the Texas Rangers now bring to the ballpark. I think it'll shock you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's do a live remote. Let's get Carter and let's do a live remote from there. I think that'd be
Carter
fun.
will be taking a picture with his Astros shirt, by the way. Now and so, Coach had sent him an Astros get up, and his wife made a beautiful blanket for Carter, by the way. And so, but yeah, we'll be putting on the Astros jersey there, and he'll be going Go Stros. So I'll have to take Facebook Live and send it out there.
Love it.
So everybody can see Carter supporting his first World Series. But yeah, so baseball is alive. Welcome to the month of October.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
time for the World Series. So very
Good
excited about
times.
that. Now, also welcome to October as the race for the national championship in college football.
Oh,
I
yes,
mean to
yes,
tell you now,
yes. Yes.
You know, Georgia was off this week, so not a lot going on there activity-wise. But let's start off with SMU. How about your Mustangs? Of course, their biggest game of the year will be Houston this weekend. Look for SMU to face off against Houston. But SMU goes on to topple Tulane with no problem, handles them in style. And so SMU remains undefeated, Kathy.
I mean, this is like the ultimate Cinderella long time comeback story. And so those of us who are old enough to remember them getting the ultimate slap on the wrist, kind of a punishment, to see this, you know, rebuilding of this team and to see where they are now. And like you said, they're undefeated. Good for them. Go Mustangs.
Yeah.
Go Ponies. Or
Go Mustangs.
Go Ponies. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. Go
Okay.
Pony. Well, and you know, here's the cool thing. SMU will be in a bowl game again. And the more that you're in a bowl game and you're seen during that holiday stretch, the more that you're able to recruit. And so you know, you get some players like a Randy Moss who may not have had the grades and went to a Division II school or a Division I school ranked 279th. Next thing you know, your program is back on the map.
Right.
And so a lot of really good players went to schools that were look at Tony Romo.
Oh yeah.
You know, Tony Romo went to a smaller school, not a gigantic football school, and he didn't get us to a Super Bowl. I think there's a lot more parts to that than just Tony Romo.
Yes.
But really a great quarterback for the Cowboys and had several great seasons with the Cowboys. And so,
I mean, you can't deny, JP, you can't deny his numbers. I mean, his stats speak and stand for themselves. It's almost, you know, I've heard some sports fans argue that, you know, it's really kind of jarring that he didn't go to a Super Bowl, that he didn't have a Super Bowl win with the numbers he put up.
Right.
So, you know, it is what it is on that.
So the game that'll haunt him, of course, the rest of his life is when he wasn't able to put the ball down from the snap for the extra point or the field goal. I can't recall now which one it was in Seattle. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember I'm trying to remember. I think that was one of those oh no moments. Like you're like, and then you're like, oh, yeah. I'm gonna have to look that one up. Yep.
That may have been a field goal, and Coach Quigley may be able to help us out on that one. So, but anyways, back to college football. So, again, SMU big win. So there's your local news on football. How about Oklahoma State? Boy, number 8 Oklahoma State. Again, Texas had no heart, had the game for 3 quarters. Fourth quarter comes, and it's like you just deflate the balloon called Texas. Oklahoma State now, they're on top of the world. And they're going to take on the national championship. By golly, let's start that conversation. And then they lose to Iowa State. Unranked Iowa State. Yeah. The Cowboys go into Iowa State and they can't take out the win. It's like, there you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Now we just need 2 more losses, and then Texas might be back in the conversation. Let's talk about Texas. Texas had the week off. Of course, we're talking about Texas, not because they're ranked, but because they're my favorite team. So, with that being said, Texas had this week off. They will face Baylor. And, Kathy, I will tell you that right now all the pundits have Baylor winning that football game. Baylor has only one loss. They're 5-1. And so it's going to be interesting as they take on the 4-3 Texas Longhorns. I'm going to tell you, sadly, again, without any kind of heart in the fourth quarter, I'm taking Baylor.
Wow. Yeah, because like I was going to have to, I was going to be live texting you while Michael was watching the game, this upcoming weekend. But wow, so and Michael has said, he's like, I really think just the way Baylor's playing right now that they've got the edge. So you're even as the most ginormous UT fan besides my mom that I know, you're going with Baylor.
I am, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put on my shirt. I'm going to put on my hat. I'm going to get my Longhorn jumper out for Carter. He'll have his onesie on that says, Texas football on it, University of Texas. And Bevo's going to have his little hat with his little horns on.
Bevo being
head.
your little dog.
And we're gonna sit there.
Bevo's your little dog, by the way. A little Chihuahua named Bevo. Yeah. That's so cute.
Yeah. And so we're going to sit there and we're going to root for my team. It's not that I'm abandoning my team. But from a pick'em kind of standpoint, I think Baylor's got this game. Again, Texas just shows no heart in the fourth quarter. And I don't know if that's a reflection of coaching. I don't know what that is. But to see a team just completely come apart in the fourth quarter now on at least 2 occasions and almost a third with TCU, it just blows me away. So anyways, I take Baylor in that game. Texas A&M has not let down since their Alabama victory. Texas A&M does a fantastic job again this weekend. They put 44 points on the board. It's almost like their quarterback has found his groove and is not letting up. And so look for Texas A&M to continue to be a force throughout the end of their season. They need some key players to be able to step down and take some losses for them to be able to even be in the conversation. But I do believe that Texas
Oh, we got a little bit of a bad connection. It sounds like JP. It sounds like you're a robot.
Top 20. Okay.
Oh, there you are.
I'm a robot.
Wait, repeat because I was into what you were saying. What were you saying before I said you sound like a robot?
That A&M will stay ranked in the top 25. They will finish out the season in the top 25. You're going to lose my picture here for a minute. I want to go back to college football very quickly here.
And while you're doing that, Fred Nort said it was a field goal. He helped us out on the other. So thank you, Fred Nort.
I thought it was. I couldn't recall it down.
So thank you, Fred.
Appalachian State thank you, Fred. Appalachian State had a huge week. They beat Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, remember, Kathy, I've been talking about them a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And that they were fighting their way into the rankings and that they were wanting to be a part of the national conversation. Not anymore. Appalachian State says, how about 30-27? Y'all just go ahead and sit down now. And so, that game, over. Navy and Cincinnati. I'm going to come back to Alabama. Number 2, Cincinnati handles Navy, but not in a fashion you expect from a number 2 team. Cincinnati wins 27-20. Navy held on strong throughout the game, and that could have gone either way. But Cincinnati, the Bearcats, hold on to the number 2 spot. Oklahoma took on Kansas. Now, I'm watching this in the fourth quarter, and I'm watching Kansas dismantle the Sooners. And then out of nowhere, the score goes 35-23 Oklahoma. So number 3, Oklahoma continues their war in getting into the national championship. Number 4, Alabama beats Tennessee 52-24. Number 5, Ohio State dismantles Indiana 54-7. Number 6, Michigan continues the Big Ten's place in the national championship conversation. They beat Northwestern 33-7. Here's another big shocker. Penn State, number 7 Penn State. You remember they lost to Iowa, Kathy?
Right.
And, of course, Iowa took that hit, and they lost the next week. Penn State loses to the unranked Fighting Illini of Illinois 20-18 in 9 overtimes.
And isn't this like the longest football game in history?
It is.
I mean,
that's
that's insane. Yeah, 9 overtimes.
The insanity was real.
Wow.
9 overtimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, Penn State should have won that game outright by 30 points. And so, again, it just shows you the Big Ten slipping out of the national conversation. Oklahoma State, again, loses to Iowa State 24-21. Number 10, Oregon, just slips by UCLA 34-31. You know, I call them the Pac-10. I think they're the Pac-14 now or something like that. But, again, just nothing coming out of the West Coast football-wise that says you have a conversation at the table for the national championship. But Oregon goes on to win 34-31. Ole Miss beats LSU. LSU all over the board this year. They stay number 12. They win 31-17. And Kathy, here you go, Notre Dame.
Jesus' team. But I better say, you know what? Next weekend, my husband, who's a big old Sick and Bears alum, if I don't say they're Jesus' team next weekend, I think I better come over and watch the game with you and Carter.
Well, you are welcome to come.
Thank you.
Number 13,
I'll bring the queso.
Number 13, Notre Dame beats USC at home 31-16. Now, this was the game of the ages. Number 16, Wake Forest. I swear this is a basketball score. Wake Forest wins 70-56 over Army.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a basketball
I was
score.
going to say, was this a preseason basketball game? Literally, that's what I was thinking when you said that's a basketball score.
Yeah. I mean, 126 combined points. Did anybody bring their defense?
Yeah, well, and again, what wins games, JP?
Oh, it's defense. That's what I've always told.
Amen.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Boy, it was the offense in that game. All right, South Carolina drops to Texas A&M at 44-14. I do anticipate that Texas A&M will move up in the standings after that win. NC State loses to Miami 31-30. No shock there. Number 22, San Diego State beats Air Force 20-14. Number 23, Pitt beats Clemson. Clemson has definitely slid down the pipe there. They are no longer even in the conversation this year. 27-17, UT San Antonio. Number 24, they beat Louisiana Tech 45-16. And to close out your top 25, Purdue loses after they had a big win last week. They lose to Wisconsin 30-13, and that closes out our top 25 games of last week. So, but big games coming up this week, no doubt about it. Houston's going to be a big game.
Yes,
as they take on SMU. Both of them are undefeated. Of course, they are in the same conference as Cincinnati, and so again, it's going to be very interesting to see how all of that unfolds. Wake Forest remains undefeated. Pitt remains undefeated. OU remains undefeated at 5-0. Of course, Texas has to have Iowa State, Baylor, and Oklahoma State lose multiple games for them to get into the Big 12 championship. Not likely to happen. And in Michigan and Michigan State and Ohio State are the only ones left unranked in the Big 10 Conference. And Conference USA, nobody's unbeaten there. And then UT San Antonio in the West, they are 4-0. And guess what's right behind them? The University of Texas, El Paso. So 2 Texas schools in Conference USA out of the West, both undefeated. So that's our college football roundup.
There you go. Good times. Good times. Great report.
Hey, thanks. College football. Woo-hoo.
Well, and you were very
So, yeah,
honest.
very excited.
I'm impressed, JP. You were very honest about Baylor and UT next weekend because I know it's gonna be a fun game. I mean, here's the thing: it'll be a fun game. It'll be good. I wish we could go.
Boy, I tell you, that's that game is sold out.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, it's going to be a great football game. Again, the Longhorns. You watch. The Longhorns will lead for 3 quarters. Baylor will come back and win the football game in the 4th quarter. So
can't wait to hear what happens a week from today.
Yeah. Of course, I am not driving. So that's why you can see me.
Yes.
That I have made my destination. I just want everybody to know that. I want them to think that he's still driving down the highway. Now he's looking at the camera. No,
you are safe in a parking lot.
I am indeed. Speaking of safe in a parking lot, I am going to talk about the NFL for just a moment, Kathy.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys because at this point you can't ignore them. They have started to make a run for at least a playoff spot and have done pretty darn good for themselves. They had this week off. Dak Prescott was injured. He had like a deep muscle tissue bruise or something along those lines?
Yes, I think that sounds right. So it sounds painful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Dallas Cowboys had the week off. They had the bye week, and so they get to rest and get everybody healthy again. Kathy, defense has been their thing this year. And again, their defense is what's winning football games because their defense is actually putting points on the board. And so I think there's a good run here, Kathy. I know you've broke out your Dallas Cowboys gear, right?
Oh, you know me. I'm ready for the game. I'm ready for the game. I missed them this weekend, because I'm so upset with the NFL for so many reasons. But that diehard Cowboy fan in me just never goes away. We went took my mom by St. Paul's Catholic Church where when we grew up, that's the church that we went to. And back in the day, when my brother and I were still in elementary school, Roger Staubach went to that church, and so did his family. And so it was so funny, even driving up into the church parking lot, the first thing my mom and I start talking about was Roger Staubach going to that church, So I've been a fan since the 70s,
Nope, I hear you. Well, the Cowboys were off this last week, and so again they get 2 weeks to be able to rest up, and that's good for Dak Prescott.
Yes.
Tonight's Monday night game, the Saints and the Seahawks. Seahawks very disappointing at this point this year. They are 2-4. The Saints are about at the same that they've always been. You gotta love people who spam you. I just got spam called. Anyways, the Saints are 3-2. No surprise there. The Broncos and the Browns faced off this last weekend. The Broncos losing that football game to the Browns. Browns are now 4-3. No shock between the Giants and the Panthers. Both pretty hapless. The Giants do win 25-3. The Jets 1-5. They're hapless as well. The Patriots, they're 3-4. They win that football game 54-13. Here has got to be the shock. And Michelle, I'm getting ready to talk about your team because I'm in shock. Boy, the Tennessee Titans never let up on the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Titans just absolutely sucked the air out of their stadium. They win the game 27-3. They really never looked back after the first half. The Titans are 5-2. The Chiefs go to 3-4. And so I'm hoping that they'll make a comeback. They've got their quarterback out there who's a Texan. And we definitely don't want Patrick Mahomes to look bad, but goodness gracious, I'll tell you, the Chiefs defense need to tighten up and wide receivers need to run a little bit better routes. But yeah, Kathy, the Chiefs and poor Patrick Mahomes, they drop another one.
Yeah, and we know we love you, Michelle. Just let the record show we love you, Michelle. Oh, and it looks like Michelle and Gail and Fred, a whole bunch of folks from the crew went to a fun country western concert this weekend. Looks like they had a great time.
They did. They went to something fest, country fest, I think.
Some kind of fun thing.
21 there.
Yeah. It looked
like
a good time. It looked like a good time.
It does. Green Bay Packers take care of the Washington They're 6-1. The Packers are. And then the next game of note, which was really good, was the Bengals and the Ravens. The Bengals just go nuts. Joe Burrow loses his mind, and they win 41-17. Of course, the poor Detroit Lions, they can't win a game if they try to buy one. They are 0-7. The Rams are 6-1. They win that game 28-19. And then the Raiders, who've had some troubles with Coach Gruden, who's moved on, they win 33-22 over the Eagles. And again, Kathy, the Dallas Cowboys, I think they've already won the NFC, for gosh sakes, because I don't know anybody that's even going to get close. I think the Eagles are 2-5, the Giants are 2-5.
I don't see anybody catching up. I at this point I just don't. So yeah,
I don't either. Now I'll tell you who's the team that's on the surprise run right now is the Cardinals. The Cardinals are 7-0. They win against the Texans 31-5. Of course, we talk about them because of their quarterback being from Allen Independent School District and bringing some state championships.
You got it. Yep.
And in fact, I'm sitting in front of Allen ISD today. That's where I'm working today.
Love it.
In 3 minutes. And so, just to round out very quickly, the Buccaneers going to win. Tom Brady's still on a tear. 49ers, they lose to the Colts. Embarrassing out in the West. And that's your NFL roundup for JP, Kathy, and the crew. And with that, Kathy, it is 8:30 already.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Real quick shout out to the Jonas Brothers. Saw them in concert. JP, I was texting Emily and I were texting you before we went to the concert. Those kids put on a great show. They started their big career and their big kickoff tour 12 years ago, and they just keep getting better and better. So just hats off and great show to the Jonas Brothers. Local kids made it big. Well, have a good day in Allen ISD.
Have a good day.
Truancy, kids.
Head in now and make some trouble.
All right. Well, we love y'all. Yeah. We'll see you next on Heart and Soul of Texas Women. And big week for JP, Kathy, and the crew, and all of our other shows on the JPK Broadcasting Network. Love you, JP. Love you to the crew. Have a blessed week.
Love y'all. Take care. Have a blessed week.